Welcome to Little English Studio, where history, culture, and the wonders of our world come alive through English storytelling. If you love exploring legendary places and forgotten stories while improving your English, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today, we travel to the sacred slopes of Mount Parnassus in Greece, to one of the most powerful and mysterious sites of the ancient world, the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, home of the famous Oracle. A place where kings, warriors, and philosophers once came seeking the voice of the gods. In ancient Greek thought, geography was more than land and sea, it was symbolic, spiritual, and Delphi stood at the very center of that symbolic map. The myth tells us that Zeus, king of the gods, released two eagles from the far ends of the earth. One flew from the east, the other from the west. Their flight paths crossed above Delphi. The Greeks declared, "This is the omphalos, the navel of the world." To mark it, they placed the omphalos stone, carved and sacred, in the sanctuary. Pilgrims would come and touch it, believing they were physically touching the axis of the world itself. Delphi lay on the southern slopes of Mount Parnassus, overlooking the fertile valley of Phocis. From its terraces, one could see olive groves stretching toward the sea, the Gulf of Corinth shimmering in the distance. Surrounded by cliffs, springs, and forests, Delphi felt both isolated and cosmic, a fitting stage for contact between humans and gods. The god most associated with Delphi was Apollo, radiant, youthful, and complex. He was the son of Zeus and Leto, twin brother of Artemis. Apollo was god of light, music, poetry, healing, and above all, prophecy. But Delphi was not always his. Before him, the site was guarded by Python, a giant serpent or dragon born of the earth goddess Gaia. The monster terrorized the land until Apollo came, armed with his silver bow. He shot the beast with golden arrows, killing it and claiming the site. From that day, Apollo was the rightful master of Delphi. The oracle who spoke there was his voice on earth. But the serpent was remembered too. The priestess who served as oracle was called the Pythia, in memory of Python. This myth symbolized the triumph of order and light, Apollo, over chaos and darkness, Python. It also reflected Delphi's identity, a place where the divine overcame the primal, yet where the earth itself still whispered secrets. The sanctuary at Delphi evolved over centuries. 7th century BCE, the first known temples were built of simple stone and wood. 6th century BCE, a grander temple rose, funded by the wealthy Alcmaeonid family of Athens, decorated with marble columns and sculptures. 548 BCE, this temple was destroyed by fire but quickly rebuilt. 4th century BCE, after an earthquake, the final great temple was built, the ruins of which we still see today. The Temple of Apollo followed the Doric order of Greek architecture, sturdy fluted columns, plain capitals, and triangular pediments. It measured 60 by 23 meters, with 6 columns at the front and 15 along the sides. In its heart lay the Aditon, the inner chamber where the Pythia sat on her tripod above a fissure in the earth. Inscriptions lined its walls, including the famous maxims, "Know thyself and nothing in excess." To step inside was to leave the ordinary world behind. The most mysterious element of Delphi was the oracle herself. The Pythia was chosen from the local women of Delphi. She had to live a pure life, abstaining from worldly distractions. On the sacred days, she would purify herself in the Castalian spring, chew laurel leaves sacred to Apollo, and enter the inner chamber. There, seated on a tripod above a cleft in the rock, she inhaled vapors that rose from the earth. Ancient writers described these as sweet-smelling fumes. Modern geologists have found that gases like ethylene may have seeped from the earth at Delphi, producing trance-like states. In this altered state, the Pythia uttered words, sometimes cries, sometimes riddles. Priests stood beside her, interpreting the speech and delivering it as prophecy. The process was cloaked in ritual and awe. To petition the oracle, visitors had to make sacrifices, pay offerings, and wait their turn, sometimes for months. Yet the answers given were sought by kings, generals, and commoners alike. The oracle's fame spread across the ancient world, and her words shaped history. Croesus of Lydia asked if he should attack Persia. The oracle replied, "If you cross the river, you will destroy a great empire." Believing it a promise of victory, he attacked, but the empire destroyed was his own. Athens, facing Persian invasion, was told to trust in wooden walls. Interpreted as their navy, this prophecy inspired Athens to fight at sea, leading to the decisive Greek victory at Salamis. Sparta, when planning the Peloponnesian War, sought Delphi's approval. The oracle's ambiguous answers gave both sides confidence. Alexander the Great visited to demand prophecy. When the Pythia refused, he pulled her to the tripod. She cried, "You are invincible," words he took as destiny. These moments show how Delphi influenced not only personal decisions but the fates of entire nations. Delphi was more than a temple, it was a bustling sanctuary and cultural center. Every 4 years it hosted the Pythian Games, second only to the Olympics. These games honored Apollo and included athletics, chariot racing, music, poetry, and drama. Winners were crowned with laurel wreaths, sacred to Apollo. The sanctuary also held treasuries, small temple-like buildings where city-states stored offerings. Athens, Corinth, Sparta, and even distant colonies built treasuries decorated with sculptures, filled with gold, silver, and artworks. These stood as both religious gifts and political displays. Visitors to Delphi encountered not only gods, but the wealth, power, and culture of the Greek world concentrated in one place. Delphi was a masterpiece of Greek architecture and art. The sacred way, the main path leading up to the temple, was lined with statues, monuments, and offerings from across the Mediterranean. Each told a story of victory, gratitude, or devotion. Sculptures depicted Apollo with his lyre, athletes in motion, and mythological scenes. Painters adorned walls with vivid colors. Even the theater above the temple echoed Apollo's role as god of music. The entire sanctuary was a symbolic map: springs for purification, treasuries for wealth, the temple for prophecy, the theater for culture, and the stadium for athletic glory. Delphi united all aspects of Greek identity in one sacred space. But all things change. As Greece fell under Macedonian and then Roman control, Delphi remained important, but its authority weakened. Roman emperors consulted the oracle, but also exploited its wealth. Nero is said to have taken hundreds of statues from the sanctuary. By the 4th century CE, Christianity spread through the empire. The old gods were declared false. In 394 CE, Emperor Theodosius banned the ancient cults and closed the oracle. The voice of Apollo fell silent. Delphi was abandoned, its temples left to ruin, its treasures looted or buried. Yet legends persisted that the last words of the oracle were, "The great temple has fallen, Apollo has left, silence remains." For centuries, Delphi lay hidden beneath a small village. Travelers saw fragments of marble, but its true identity was forgotten. In the 19th century, archaeologists uncovered the site. French excavations revealed the temple of Apollo, the theater, stadium, treasuries, and countless artifacts. Statues like the charioteer of Delphi, bronze tripods, and inscriptions emerged, bringing Delphi's glory back to light. Today, Delphi is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Visitors walk the same sacred way, see the ruins of the temple, the theater where music once played, and the stadium where athletes raced. Though the oracle is silent, the stones still whisper of gods and destiny. What makes Delphi eternal is not only its ruins but its ideas. The inscriptions, "Know thyself and nothing in excess," remain timeless lessons. They remind us of balance, humility, and wisdom. The oracle, with her cryptic words, reflects the complexity of truth, that guidance is never simple, that destiny requires interpretation. And Apollo himself, god of light and prophecy, reminds us that humanity has always sought meaning beyond the visible. Delphi was once the center of the world. In many ways, it still is a spiritual center that continues to inspire seekers of wisdom. Thank you for joining Little English Studio on this journey to Delphi, the sacred temple of Apollo, and the voice of the oracle that once guided empires. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments which prophecy of Delphi fascinates you the most. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining your own light into history's mysteries. See you in the next story.